Hey everyone, gas prices. Wow. $2 a liter in Canada and another $5 a gallon in the US. What does this mean for the electric car industry and the battery technologies associated with it? Big opportunity. We find out now in our latest podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dales Report podcast. I'm happy to be joined once again here in the podcast. Vibon Lee, he's the Chief Technology Officer from Volt Carbon Technologies, formerly St. John Carbon, which trades on the TSX venture under the ticker symbol VCT. Joins us today. Vibon, great to have you back. How are things?
Pleasure to be here as always, Chad. All good on my side. Interesting
times right now in this world, is it not?
Very, very interesting.
Yeah. And before we get into this interview, for you, the viewers, I want to get back to you and obviously communicate. Leave a comment below. We want to ask you the question with obviously everything that's going on overseas and the war in the Ukraine. Does this obviously look at the battery technology, meaning electric car industry, emerging and producing and progressing that much quicker, knowing the prices of gases at an all-time high? So leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your feedback. So Vibon, let's get into it. The first question. I want to begin with your proprietary air classification system. You were showing me last week that the system can extract flake graphite from aggregate and is capable of extracting natural graphite flakes and providing graphite concentrates at 95%. So sounds very sophisticated. So can you explain more as to why this is important for battery investors?
Well, this is important for one. Graphite is a critical battery mineral. And it's been declared by governments, US and Canada, that it's something that's crucial to make energy storage devices. So we have processes, the way we get graphite today, we get it from overseas. A lot of it comes from China. It's and the way it's made is they use hydrofluoric acid and they leach everything out of it. And what remains is graphite. But then the acids that they use in the reagents cause a lot of harm to the environment. So, we've come up with a process where we actually do the separation by air. Okay. And through aerodynamics, we're able to, take the graphite, extract it out of the aggregate. And sometimes we do get 95%, but, we easily hit 80% on the first try. And then from there, we do some improvements to the processes. And we've seen the potential of hitting over 90%.
So over 90 is considered excellent. What would you consider bad? And are there companies out there in the space right now that are at that threshold?
Well, I'll just show you something interesting. I've got a little jar of, shiny flake graphite, and you can see how large the flakes are. They are actually pretty large. It's not fine powder. Okay. To get to this, most miners and companies will have to take it through a process called flotation. So they crush it to many steps, and then they crush it and grind it till it actually, the graphite will float and everything else sinks to the ground. And they do this in the presence of, kerosene. They apply acids to it, and the remediation of the reagents is going to be to me it's an environmental nightmare.
100%.
Put things back in the ground in a similar fashion the way we took it out. So here, if we just separate flakes by air and we get it a higher purity, then we just need a little more purification to get it to the battery grade. So it really is a change in thinking and a change in processing. And it also requires no water, no tailings to be discharged. And what that means is that the capex for any graphite processing plant dramatically reduces. So that's hopefully that's fairly clear.
No, it's clear, but I like this is obviously a major priority for a lot of companies. Environment is front and center within this industry, especially in the year 2022. But I'd be curious, how do you get to a point where you're purifying at over 95%? How does it work as far as in comparison to say competitors within the space? How do you get to a point? Is it all based on the technology that you have and trial and error?
Yeah, we've actually ran some very good engineering simulations to be able to perform this. So a lot of this is aerodynamics and ensuring that the flake graphite is captured by aerodynamics, while the remaining constituents are they flow through this machine.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really the trick to it is how you do it. And the fact that we can extract these flakes are, we're very proud of this, because I would challenge our competitors or our, sources around the world. How are they going to get it to this level? And to get it to this level, they have to put it through maybe 3 or 4 flotation processes. Then they have to dry the graphite. And here I've got the graphite already dry. And after a few crushing steps, we can just put it through our air classifier and we've got the material.
So translate that into overhead costs then to your investors. Like what is obviously you look at from an environmental standpoint, obviously that's extremely important within your business model right now, but from a pure revenue standpoint and an operations cost standpoint, walk me through the technology that you would have and the advantage it provides, say some of the other competitors that you said it would have to go through 2 or 3 or 4 processes to get where you're at right now.
Well, I've had a chance to look at some of the CapExes, because they're publicly available, other companies, and how much they spent on building a graphite processing plant. And it's in the neighborhood of $500 million. And when you look at the equipment they need just to manage the tailings, that alone is a $70 million CapEx. The equipment itself, is about another $100 million CapEx.
Wow.
And you've got sustaining costs. So we're talking that if we can succeed with this, it does reduce the CapEx costs substantially. And not to mention, a lot of, the permitting for mines is, what do you do with the mine after, at the end of life, how do you bring it back to where it was, and how do you manage the tailings? You got, dangerous chemicals there that you have to, change back and back to something safe. And so with our process, with these advantages, I think it just makes it easier for us to refine graphite here in North America and be able to supply it into a battery grade anode.
So a lot of the equipment that you have, your proprietary system, is it an opportunity even to contract it out to other companies as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can. Now, keep in mind, we're still developing the process. It looks extremely promising. Every time we run the machine, we get flake graphite in good concentrates. And so there's still a little bit of fine tuning that has to happen. And we're building things around the machine to make it work even better. But I think we have the process defined in such a way that it's going to become an advantage for us.
How long did it take to design and bring this to life as far as the overall system itself?
Well, it actually took about a year. So last year, when everyone was in lockdown, we kept our engineering running. And a series of really good, high quality engineering simulations, we were able to build a machine that was based off our simulations, and that machine performed exactly as predicted. So that's the most important thing is your work, is the simulation of your work accurate? And so we were very happy to see that. So once we built the machine, and on the first trial, we hit over 85%. We were
Which
quite
is great.
Yeah.
So other companies, obviously you have a patent on this. So are there other companies that could design not something the same, but similar to this if it only takes a year? Where I'm going with this is I'm trying to really understand, if you've got something that's a leading technology in the industry and takes about a year to design, why aren't more companies in the space, I guess, focusing on this pathway?
Well, I've actually investigated past uses of air classification, and I've actually looked at case studies where classification has actually failed. And I've been able to build on those lessons learned and find out why it's failed.
Okay.
And utilize some engineering problem solving to get around those issues. So once we did that, we were able to come up with a machine that really had the right characteristics.
Yeah.
engineering innovation to make this work. So just to give you another example in terms of perspective, this is a rock. You can see this is a piece of ore, and you can see how grayed out this is. So this is a very high purity piece of graphite ore. And what we would do is we would crush this through a couple more steps.
Mm-hmm.
And then from the crushing, we would put it through an air classifier and then come up with the powder, the shiny
Makes
powder.
sense.
Yeah. So that's the process. It's all dry.
Which, no pun intended, is gold when it comes to your industry and your sector. Exactly, right?
Well, yeah, there's an analogy to it because it looks like black gold because it's glittery.
Yeah.
Black.
I wanted to ask, as far as the industry as a whole, when it comes to some of the large multinational companies in the space, do they traditionally invest in early stage junior companies?
Well, I assume that they do. I think the things that they look for is where they can find sources of critical minerals. So that's what's driving a lot of consolidation. And in Canada here, there are really good graphite ore bodies between Quebec and Ontario. I guess millions of years ago, the geology was such that it created great deposits of graphite.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at this country here in these two provinces, there's some fantastic deposits, and I think it's just a matter of time as the electric vehicle industry grows that there's going to be more emphasis on local sourcing. And the excitement we have is that as this local sourcing picks up, then it's going to shift a little more to responsible sourcing, where people are buying graphite sources that don't come from processes that harm the environment, that it's as simple as using air. We don't use any water, at least to get it to the grade that we have to. And at least that gives us a much better chance at preserving nature a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you brought up the whole electric car system in like the industry. And right now, obviously with what's going on in the Ukraine, oil's now reached $125 a barrel and gas prices are soaring at the pump. Prices approaching $2 a liter in some places in Canada, $5 a gallon in the United States. And again, to all my viewers watching this, we'd love to get your comments below. Based on these prices, do we think the electric car industry is going to emerge even that much quicker, knowing the times that we're living in and the cost of living and inflation going on? So leave your comment below. But Vibon, what I wanted to ask is, should we read much into this as far as a shift in mindset by many with knowing the cost of living? And, the other day I spent almost $200 filling up my vehicle.
I remember back in 2008 when oil went up to a pretty high price, and that, I believe, drove the first evolution in electric vehicles. And first batch of companies like Tesla really emerged back then. And then, over time, oil prices went down.
Yep.
And then people went back to driving, maybe bigger vehicles or something that is more, gas guzzles a little more. And then now we're actually hitting that trend again. To me, it almost seems like 2008 all over again. And unfortunately, we have a war today in Europe. And I think that is going to drive that trend. I think the fact that, geopolitically, there's going to be some separation, that there's going to be a drive to look for critical minerals in North America. There's no question that I think that's going to happen. And then we know where the ore bodies of graphite are, but people are going to be looking for ore bodies of lithium, cobalt, nickel. So all those commodities are going to be, getting a lot of attention.
Right. So you think the high hydrocarbon prices will incentivize a big shift in electric vehicles? You believe that?
I absolutely do. And, I've talked to a few people, and I've seen savings of people that have shifted already to electric vehicles. And, some of the people that I know have said, well, we'll never go back. But, there are some drawbacks of electric vehicles today that I think will just take some time to overcome.
100%. And you have to ask the question, are we the right people to be asking about the future of electric vehicles? It's a lot of younger people. Obviously, there's a completely different lifestyle of living. And, you know where this is going. And, quite honestly, the next 5, 10, 15 years with this industry is going to see a huge explosion as we continue to trend, obviously, down that road. When we look as of the week of March 7th, the benchmark lithium price index has skyrocketed this year in line with the sharp rise on all commodities, which is a big eye opener to say the least, which I'm sure you're covering or following closely. It's only going to increase knowing what currently is going on in the world. So saying that, I wanted to ask, how do the rising prices, I guess, affect your business on operational standpoint in terms of research and development costs?
From our carbon processing technology, there's going to be more, push to source locally, as I mentioned earlier. But there's also going to be people looking for ways of getting there and lowering our cost per tonnage. So we could provide tools to the industry, to the mining industry in Canada and the US of processing where they could lower their cost per ton. That's where I think our sweet spot is providing the know-how and also maybe processing some of the minerals ourselves as well.
And so saying that, I wanted to ask you one last thing. Let's envision it's the year 2025 and a new class of battery tech has emerged that can outpower, let's say, large rigs, outdistance a standard gas commuter vehicle before needing a charge and more. So once that all comes to fruition, why should investors believe that your company be one of the winners that commercializes battery technologies that is used by a major automotive manufacturer?
Well, I think when it comes down to, at the end of the day, it comes down to cost and livelihood, right? So if we could provide a good processing method where costs can come down and it's more attractive to the consumers to buy an electric vehicle product, and we're part of that chain, of goods, then I think we would have done our job and our work. That's what we're here for, is to provide low cost methods and innovative methods of extracting minerals out of the ground as compared to traditional methods. And, prior to us, fine tuning and inventing this air classifier, there's really no other way. I mean, you'd have to go through wet circuits where you create all these reagents, and it would just be a bit of a disaster to the environment to spend $70 million to work on the tailing management system. Right? So I think we have a good innovation here, and we're very excited about it. And I think it's just a matter of time before more people, more customers in the EV space find us.
Leading industry technology platform that you have, your overhead costs, obviously are efficient as well, which are going to be key components, obviously, with multi-international companies. And then yourself as well. You've worked at Magna. You have a long list of success exit strategies with previous companies. This opportunity itself right now with where you're at, where does this rank amongst your career?
Between the battery venture that I'm working on commercializing and the fact that, we've got ability to process with such a great advantage that it ranks pretty high. I mean, it's probably the top project I've worked on.
Wow.
And it just takes a while for the innovation to really come through the industry. That's what it really is. When you first start out, you have an innovation and you see how well it works. You start to present it, people start to come on board, and it just takes that time.
And
the innovations.
Do you find, like, with younger audiences, younger investors that like to gravitate towards the whole crypto NFT world right now? I'd be curious to like, this is a huge, huge industry component for the future of obviously this planet. And it's been a topic of conversation for quite some time. But do you find that you're getting more and more people, I guess the younger generation investors that are interested in this sort of thing?
Well, it's interesting you say that. We recently announced a private placement in our company. I think it's just a couple of days ago, but the investors there are very young. They're young people.
Great.
I've got maybe 10, 15 years on them.
Yeah.
So, there is a young group of investors out there I see all the time that are interested in innovation and, making the world a better place.
Yeah, for sure. Innovation's key, isn't it? Listen, I appreciate the update, and I like the obviously technology platform that you basically talked about us today. But congrats, obviously, on the name change. And again, formerly St. John Carbon, now under the name Volt Carbon Technologies. Formerly used to trade on the ticker symbol SJL in the TSX Venture. It now trades under the ticker symbol VCT. Vibon, appreciate the update, and let's keep in touch.
Pleasure as always, Shad. Take care.
Yeah, take care. Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you giving this video a thumbs up. We also value your feedback, so leave a comment below. And if you like what we do, then share this video on your socials. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and tap on that bell to receive notifications for all future videos that we post. Thanks for watching.